Here's some simple math for you. Tony Hawk's 1 plus 2 multiplied by the mechanics of Tony 3 equals a bloody awesome game. Mind you, that perfect formula has been buggered up before. I am of course talking about 2012's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD, a theorem that also added in a notorious developer named Robomodo, while also subtracting expected things like skate park creation. That particular remake wasn't a complete bail, but it sure didn't land well with veterans like myself. It's perfectly understandable then that some fans are unwilling to kick off on the right foot with Activision's second attempt. I'm happy to tell those folks that their fears are unfounded and they can switch stance away from skepticism, because holy Christ air, Tony Hawk's 1 plus 2 is actually decent. Better than decent. If you give this a chance, tonight you're gonna pop shove it like it's 1999. But you know what, before we get into all that, some super quick housekeeping. You should know that I deal in two things in this channel: segmented topics on the YouTube's play bar that let you jump to what you want, when you want it, and also decent chunks of gameplay where I just shut the hell up and let the game do the talking for itself. Now, unfortunately, Activision has advised me not to include, or at least replace, music tracks from this game, as they'll get me copyright bothered. So, blame them for that, not me. I've done what I can. Personally, I'd love nothing more than to blast your ears with Dead Kennedys and Rage Against the Machine. Best I can do in this regard is put in the official Spotify list down in the description below. Anyway, I've spoken enough for this intro, let's get you some of that gameplay. And I've even done a comparison of the old graphics that came before, just to let you know how good you've got it now. If you're a newbie to the Tony Hawk's franchises, I envy you. Because you're going to discover a beautiful ballet of evolving trick lines and linking combos that push the limits of what is possible, or even sensible, with on-screen subtitling. In Phase 2 of your new love affair, you're going to have to learn how to earn special meter and weave in ludicrously showy and high-scoring tricks, be they of the grab, kickflip, or grind variety. As you progress, you're going to realise the trick-linking power of manuals, reverts, wall rides, and wall plants. You'll likely spend hours perfecting stratospheric score runs as you try to cheat death and your destabilizing balance meters. The last phase of your new obsession with this game is going to be pain, because you're going to have to take a break because your thumb hurts from too much D-pad use. You're still going to want to play though, because the Birdman formula is just as addictive now as it was back in the day. It is quite different from the modern skate game though. What the Tony Hawk series sort of lacks in slower paced realism and ludicrously low and tight camera angles, it more than makes up for with one more go addiction of just stuff to tick off and scores to perfect. You will happily rerun levels in order to discover hidden rat runs and better ways to leverage a trick system that deals in this delicate interplay of speed, distance, angle, and of course timing. I mean, you could say that Tony Hawk's basically mimics the complexity of a fighting game on 4 wheels. The M Bison that you're up against this time is all that skin-hungry concrete around you. And personally, I would say my biggest enemy is myself. 9 out of 10 of my bails are born out of greed. Filthy points multiplier greed. Tony 1 plus 2 is such a stark contrast, coming from the cruisy, make-your-own fun sessions of something like, I don't know, Skater XL or EA's old Skate series. The original Tony Hawk's games hailed from a time of busy work laundry lists, of objectives, and environments where you can sort of count the individual grains in the sandbox because they're so small. You really should prepare your expectations in that regard, because turn of the millennium hardware just didn't allow for vast skate parks. Though it has to be said that some new visual tricks of the 4K spit polish can make those old places seem more expansive than you'd remember. Getting a full draw distance instead of PlayStation 1's Hans Mollman view of a skate park is an obvious upgrade. And whereas the tight-fisted 2012 HD version offered you a paltry 7 levels, plus 3 DLC ones, you basically get everything from Tony 1 and Tony 2. You're also getting proper backdrops, or these little window peek-throughs that sort of root these skate parks into being part of a much wider world, in ways that those blurry 2D skyboxes never could. It also has to be said that the new lighting system and these little throwaway details, like reflective puddles of water, scurrying rats and pesky drones, these sorts of things are just used to great effect, purely as a means to liven up a bunch of places that were kind of dingy back in the day. More importantly, the basic level geometry remains authentic, and the navigation of these worlds just feels so much lovelier in 60 frames per second. You'd be amazed at how that smoothness enhances the old levels you've played 1,000 times. I actually got these giddy thrills while bombing down hills, slingshotting up and down halfpipes, or transition launching from pools to ceiling height. Doing that sort of stuff just feels fun and dangerous now. I think it's fair to say, and generally speaking, that the doubling of the old frame rate has enhanced the flow of comboing as well. When everything was going right for me, I could just drop into these almost zen-like runs. Really lovely stuff. All that being said, the trucks of the old mechanics have been tightened a little too much in places. I've played thousands of hours of this series across, oh man, I'm old, 14 Tony Hawk's games. And at this point I have this ingrained muscle memory that knows what I can get away with, or at least should be able to get away with. I know how long a grab trick can be held in a half pipe before my avatar eats crap on the downward. Likewise, my thumb expects a certain fleeting time window in which to bank that down-up flick that will link my revert into a manual. The frames of those input windows have shifted slightly. It took me a good 30 somewhat frustrating minutes or so to recalibrate to these new subtleties. Not a huge deal, it's certainly worth mentioning to anybody out there who is not overly known for their patience. Speaking of literal balancing issues, I also noticed that the jump penalties are more lenient this time with manuals. Back in the day, staying upright would become very difficult to manage if you tried to milk a manual by throwing in just an ollie and trying to start another manual. The idea being you need to actually go out and diversify your combo with a grind or something else. However, this new game allows you at least 2 free hops when you're flat landing. So I think purists should expect to be up against a bit more sort of spammy and unoriginal combos when those online leaderboards open up. Weirdly, on the other end of the difficulty spectrum, lip balancing, even when maxed out, is really unforgiving, like no Tony Hawk's game I've ever played. So yeah, that needs a patch. And on the topic of minor issues, doubling the speed of the game sounds great on paper, and I've already voiced how much I love it, but it does throw a monkey wrench in a few other things. For example, turning in tight areas can be quite difficult because you no longer have that slower reaction window to change course effectively. If your reflex levels are anything less than, say, like an MLG champ on ecstasy, you can expect to experience some moments of just pinballing off stuff helplessly. In that same vein, when I came to use those old tricks to swiftly flick up into harder reach areas, I found they were affected by this too. Because when everything's running twice as fast, you effectively have half the time to get your thumbs in gear to work the old magic. And when you put all that together, I think this is probably one of the hardest Tony Hawk games I've ever played. Except for Tony Hawk's Ride on that stupid skateboard peripheral. That thing was a pile of crap. Nitpicking aside, there are some worthy new changes that have been shoehorned in. The most obvious is this neat little way that bales are handled with a video glitch effect. You still get the full sense of having cocked up, but now you're up on your feet a hell of a lot quicker and with some of your forward momentum intact. Something else that I appreciated, but kinda got old as the hours wore on, was in regards to how the skaters are just way more vocal about what they're doing. I mean, they have this little bitch when they botch a combo, but they also yahoo like a grommet who's just figured out how to ollie as they're doing a combo run. It's, I don't know, neat in theory, but I think most of you are probably going to reach for the audio controls and turn it off. Anyway, so that's the bare bones of Tony Hawk's Evaluated. But what about the meat of it? The content that you're getting from two games? First of all, it's so much more generous than that 2012 HD game. And what you're getting is a 50-50 grind of old versus new, both in terms of the soundtrack and the skater roster department. With the latter, it's nice to see the torch get passed to the young blood skaters who are sprinkled throughout this game. Riley Hawk especially. But you know what? I was more stoked with the fact that I could just get and play all of those OG skaters from 1999. Dudes so old that Neversoft could have legitimately put in an ankle arthritis meter. Could have been an interesting mechanic. And whoever you do select, there is a crap ton of clothing and boards to unlock for them. You can even make your own avatar from the trucks up in the Creator Skater mode, whose vast library of cosmetic options gets unlocked through a new XP leveling system. If you're a completionist, this layer of the game is going to keep you coming back for ages. And it's an addictive bloody thing that's constantly egging you on with challenge completion fanfares that just pop up for every damn thing you do. Finish your first tutorial mission? Guitar riff, have some XP and cash. If you told me that equipping a hat in this game at an especially rakish angle would give me a level boost, I'd believe you. It's all such excitable stuff, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't get drawn into it. You probably will too. At the end of the run, when push comes to shove it, I really like Tony Hawk's 1+2. Over the years, I've not really known Activision to give enough craps about preserving and updating their catalogue. And you need only look over at how they squandered Marvel Ultimate Alliance and Tony Hawk's HD to see that in action. But you know what? They did right by Crash, they did right by Spyro, and now they've done right by this beloved retro IP. Aside from a few sort of niggly things that won't make veterans smith grind their teeth in anger, I don't think we could have hoped for a better do-over than this. The developer balances this fine line of being true to the original article while also massaging in some modern McTwists. The odd creature comfort. I honestly think this could serve as a renaissance for the franchise. I can't wait to see what people are going to make with the Creator Park. I'm setting aside decent chunks of my calendar to play some good old-fashioned split screen with my old skating pals. And I'm also down to get a bit of an online score war started with my buddies who won't be able to make it to my house due to a lockdown. Either way you look at it, the Birdman action is back and it's better than ever. This is peak Hawk, and you need to swoop on it.